everyone, it's Nicole from HBCU 20 by 20, and we are extremely excited about today's conversation. We're in the middle of Black History Month, and something that's important for us is exploring the experiences of Black professionals at the companies we partner with. Today, we have the pleasure of having the Fossil Group with us. As you all may have seen, we have launched a campaign for Black History Month with the Fossil Group, and we're extremely excited because this month's Black History Month product, the watch, will go towards supporting the work of HBCU 20 by 20. So we want to thank Fossil for their support of our organization, the support of our future, and most importantly, the support of our community. So if you haven't, be sure to go check out that watch. In the meantime, we have some amazing panelists here with us today who are ready to share their personal and professional journeys, just to gain a little bit or provide a little bit more insight into what it's like to walk in their shoes as a professional at Fossil. With that said, I'd like to go ahead and start by introducing our panelists. So for our panelists, what I'll have you do is just introduce yourself, what you do at Fossil, and why what you do matters. So I'll start with Jennifer, since I see you on my top left screen.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Smith. I am the Senior Manager of Environmental Sustainability. And what I do at Fossil is important because I am working to make sure that the company globally is doing the best that they can to preserve the environment and reduce our carbon footprint overall.
Thank you so much just for sharing that. Next, I'd like to spotlight or highlight Trey. So Trey, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, my name is Trey. I work as an integrated marketing coordinator for the North America department. Pretty much I help out again with marketing towards like different campaigns and a lot of our promotions. So just help coming up with new, innovative and creative ideas to speak to that, to bring as much revenue as possible. So.
Thank you so much. So the creatives and the money behind Fossil, essentially.
Somewhat, yeah, definitely.
Thank you for that. Next, I'd like to spotlight Hallie.
Okay, my name is Hallie Millian. I am the Associate Creative Director for Scoggin, which is one of the brands under the Fossil umbrella. So we have multiple brands, Fossil being the prominent owned brand, and Scoggin is another one of the brands which is owned by Fossil. And so I design jewelry for the Scoggin brand, and design is at the forefront of what Fossil does. So that is why what I do is important.
Thank you. I can tell by your beautiful earrings that you're definitely into design. So, I'm excited. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people in our community who would like to learn a little bit more about the design process as well. So we're happy to have you here. And last, we'll head over to Roy. Roy, do you mind sharing a little bit more about what you do at Fossil?
Hi, I'm Roy Spearman. I'm an IT solution manager responsible for the roadmap for all IT services related to our after sales and customer care areas. So why what I do is important is for the customers that call in and need help, the systems that I support help to make sure that that conversation happens, whether that's via email, chat, phone, or through direct interaction, even over social media, as well as all the systems that happen in our repairs area. So if you do have an issue with your watch, we would be glad to help you repair that and get that watch back to you. So I'm responsible for the roadmap and the systems that manage those two areas.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And everyone, y'all know who to contact if anything goes wrong with your watch. Just kidding. But thank you so much to each of our panelists. The first question I'd like just to pose, and I'll pose it with Hallie, is Fossil is a power player in the fashion industry. What skills are needed to be successful at a company like Fossil, specifically in your area?
Well, all of our designers use the Adobe suite, which is Adobe Illustrator, and all of the different programs that come along with that Adobe programming. So at the baseline, we ask our designers to have that skill set. but also an eye for trend and the ability to and desire to continue to learn as you grow. So there's always opportunities to learn a new skill here. And so we seek people who are looking for to continue to grow in their careers and learn new skill sets for presentations, and not only your own presentations, but also presenting internally but externally to our partners, which could be for Skagen, we have partners overseas in Denmark and fashion houses. And so even we have external partners with some larger brands, American brands on the fossil side. So making sure that your presentation skills and design skills in those areas are up to par, and you continue to develop them as those programs develop, because there's always, when I first started designing, I was sketching by hand, and I had to learn how to sketch by, computer on the job just so I could continue to grow my career.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds like it was important for you to learn how to adapt. Can you talk a little bit about what that process was like for you? Because I know that when I think of design, I tend to think also sketch, so using a sketchbook and drawing out designs. But what was that process like for you? And what advice would you have for any students who are also interested in that process?
Well, we still do iterations and sketching by hand when we're first starting out. And then I have honestly learned a lot from my coworkers. So I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, and we focused again more on renderings and hand renderings and sketching. But along the way, as the industry grew and changed, I learned from my coworkers how to use Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and iterate on my presentation skills so that I could grow my career. So um, we still do use Adobe Illustrator, but we also use 3D programs to do some of our design work, which again is, I suggest that you learn, if you don't have those classes currently, that you find a way to learn that on your own. I mean, YouTube is a gem for all designers, I'll be honest with you. So that is great. And then even learning After Effects to improve your presentations and add a bit of an elevated flair to your presentations is also important.
Thank you so much for just shedding light on that. Next, I'd like to go to Trey and ask the same question. What skills are important to be successful in a role like yours?
I would say, again, since I still am new to the whole marketing industry, a few things that I've learned that have definitely helped me in my role is being able to take initiative and taking on a leadership type of position. Since most of the people in our department, we help lead our creative team coming up with different ideas for, again, like the promotions and different campaigns. So, and also just having like an eye for detail. I think keeping up with different trends from like different companies and whatnot definitely plays a big part. Um, since we definitely do utilize that and we definitely take that into consideration.
Thank you so much. And it sounds like, being a team player is really important in your role and just being able to connect with each other.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like for the most part, like our team is really like unified, and we definitely pick up off of each other different ideas. So it definitely helps.
Thank you so much for that. Next, I'd like to go to Jennifer. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit more about the skill set that's needed to be successful in your role?
So in my role, a lot of what I do is self-management. It's very project-based, and you have to take a lot of initiative to find programs and or consultants to help push along the goals that we have set for the department. I would say, as a general statement, something that are skills that are important for anybody applying to any role at Fossil is really just having crafted and mastered soft skills. And what I mean by that is communication skills, your listening skills, your time management skills. Those are things that are very important to master in any role that you have at any job, not only at Fossil, but anywhere you go after you graduate.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that something at HBCU 20 by 20 we focus a lot on are those soft skills. What's taught in class and what you experience you gain at an internship is one thing, but the ability to really communicate effectively and really listen, like you said, be able to analyze what's being said is important. So out of curiosity, how did you build those skills?
So it was a lot of trial and error. I would say that I am very fortunate to have a mom that was very high in her position when she was working. She's retired now. So a lot of what I have learned has been, again, through trial and error, but then also asking for advice from my mom, who's one of the smartest people that I know. Or what you can do is seek out somebody who you really admire at your company and just approach them and ask them for advice. I think it's just really important to learn from people who are in roles or have um, positions that you really aspire to be in or have, and ask those people for advice on how to accomplish what they've accomplished.
Thank you so much for shedding light on that. And much to your point, being able to identify those people who are in a position where you want to be and being able to tap into them for mentorship and advice certainly is a key component of success. So thank you for that. Next, I'd like to move to Roy. Roy, you get to interface with customers. So what kind of skill sets are needed to be successful in your role in solving those problems?
And Nicole, I'm going to touch on something that Nicole said about soft skills. So even though I work in IT and have an IT background, the skill set that's most important for me in my role is problem solving and communicating with others. So even before we get down to the core technology of what's going to solve the problem, whether that's a network infrastructure problem, whether that's a data problem, whether that's a data movement problem, whether that's a um, you name it, any type of IT problems that you have, at the core of it is how do I understand and engage with my customers? And my customers are internal customer care leaders and repair leaders. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? And then asking those questions to kind of fill in the holes, because a lot of times they have great and wonderful ideas of, hey, we want to go to the moon. Well, in order to get to the moon, we first got to build a launching pad. How big is that launching pad? How big is the rocket? How fast does the rocket need to go? In what direction does it need to go? So having the opportunity to hone in on those skills and bring your personality to that are the skill sets that I've leveraged more so in my career than just the core technology. At the end of the day, I do have to go back and understand how to implement that solution and carry that from start to finish, or carry that through the entire software development lifecycle. But each point along the way, I need to be able to communicate those updates, look for gaps, understand, answer their questions to see where we need to go from there. So those would be the skill sets that I picked up and honed in on. So Jennifer, you hit the nail on the head there with the skills that are needed to be successful.
Thank you so much, Roy, for providing that context. And I'd like to since you're here, ask you my next question. In what ways is Fossil shaping the future or shaping the customer's experience?
Yeah, so our customers today really want the opportunity to engage with us, and wherever those customers are, we want to meet the customer where they are. So a few years ago, when I first started in IT, 19, 20 years ago, this whole idea of social platforms and social media was not a thing. It is very much a thing today. So the one thing that we're doing as well right now is making sure that we're able to meet the customers where they are. Shaping the future for us looks like being on social media, responding to those, requests and posts. If the customers want to chat with us, how we're able to present that on all of our different platforms, whether that be for our own brands or our licensed brands, we're going in that direction. So the idea for us is to be bold, be brave in how we're presenting ourselves and using our own voice, and not sounding like other companies. You know, there may be other great companies that are out there, but no one has the Fossil voice like we do. No one treats our customers like we do. So we want to be on the leading edge of that and disrupt the atmosphere, disrupt the environment, so that people really know who we are, and that we really care about our customers.
Thank you so much for providing that context. And I like that, you know, it's the voice that makes you all different, the way that you're able to engage. So thank you for shedding light on that. And I think that with that said, I'd like to just come to Trey and ask, you know, in your role, how do you see Fossil shaping the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that I can think of is, because I help out with under Fossil, I help out with Watch Station and Skagen. And going back to Skagen, it is a planet friendly brand, and it's definitely marketing towards like using sustainable recycled products. And I think that a lot of companies are sort of like jumping on that trend. I know like a lot of people are taking initiative, the fact that fast fashion is a big, like it's a big, like it's a really, it's hurting our planet overall. And I think Skagen does a great job with not only storytelling on how they're using those recyclable products, but it's also helping like redefining it, but within like a modern take to it.
Thank you so much. And where I want to hop to then is to Hallie to learn a little bit more about how that design process kind of leads into creating a more eco-friendly and sustainable world.
So from the product design standpoint, we look to partner with Jennifer and her team to source materials that would be suitable for our products in the watches and jewelry space, that still feel elevated, but yet are better for our planet, or reuse and recycle products from plastics from the ocean, as an example. And so we really are tasked with, specifically on the Skagen brand, to focus on materials that are sustainable for the planet or better for the planet. And so we predominantly use recycled steel on a lot of our products. And in any way that we can, we are pushing the envelope forward in that way, and reducing our use of poly bags and what type of bags we're using, even in the packaging. And so from our boxes that you receive the product, we design those so that we can using recycled materials as well. So from the point of where you receive the product in the mail, we really want you to feel that we are doing our best to take care of the environment while still providing you with a quality product.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know I didn't know that, but it's great to hear that you all are moving the climate forward, or being mindful of that, because it is something that is incredibly important. So with that said, I'll come back over to Jennifer and just ask, like, on the opposite end, how are you all shaping the future through what you're doing in your department?
So we're shaping the future definitely, as Hallie just said, by partnering with all of the brands in the building to make sure that we, Fossil, are doing our part to reduce our carbon footprint. So that's through material selection. That can be through partnering with our factories to see what actions they're taking to reduce their carbon footprint, because that also impacts what Fossil is doing, as well as any internal opportunities that we can offer to the employees of Fossil. So an example of that would be a watch take back that we did last year. And what that means is that we offered an opportunity for Fossil employees. Some of us have been here for a very long time and have collected a lot of watches that we don't use, to bring in their old watches that they're no longer using so that we can recycle them, thereby reducing our carbon footprint. So any little bit that we can do helps. Some things are on a grand scale, some things are a little bit smaller, like the watch take back, and a little and internal. But just overall, anything that we can do to not only partner internally, but with our external partners, we do to just reduce our overall carbon footprint.
Thank you so much for sharing that as well. You know, whether it's big or small, like every effort, you know, truly matters. And since you're on screen, I'd like to ask you the next question. How did you end up at Fossil and what's keeping you there? I know that you kind of hinted that you've been at Fossil for a little bit. So I'd like to know what brought you to Fossil.
So I came to Fossil from Walt Disney World, believe it or not, in Orlando. This is the second job I have ever had in my entire life. Honestly, I just applied online on a whim. I saw a position that I liked, and about 2 years later, someone from the HR department called me. At the time, Fossil had an apparel or clothing department, so that's where I started in product development, and was actually in product development for quite a long time, a little over a decade. I know I look like I'm only 21, but so
Definitely going to mention that. It was like a decade. Okay.
I know, right? So what has kept me at Fossil, to be quite honest, is the people that work here. Fossil has some of the nicest people that I have ever worked with. And I have also been able to have some really great leadership that has, along with my own hard work, helped me to move up in my career. So I've never been stagnant. I've never been in the same position for more than like 5 or 6 years. I've always been able to not only have a new opportunity, whether that be lateral in a new department or category, but also to be promoted and excel in my career that way as well.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, I think it's important to know that the company's culture is fostering community, and it's what it sounds like you get at Fossil. So thank you for sharing that. Next, I'd like to come to Roy and ask the same thing. How did you get to Fossil and what's keeping you there?
Jennifer, Nicole, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Whatever your heart desires.
Okay, I'll put the timer on and give you the short answer. So coming out of Morehouse College in 1996, I was recruited from there and joined a pharmaceutical company. There I had the opportunity to be on our recruiting team and our internship program that focused on HBCU attraction and retention. So loved that particular job, loved that particular company, but it was in Indiana. It was in Indianapolis. It was cold, wet, rainy, and snowy for 8 months out of the year, it seemed like to me. And I was like, I'm so done with this. I love the work. I love the people that I work with there, but the weather was just getting to a brother. So the opportunity came up where they were going through layoffs, and they said, hey, Roy, do you want to apply for this job or do you want to take a package? I'll take the package. So give me that package. I'll take my golden parachute and come down to Texas, because I had been talking about coming to Texas for quite some time. So fast forward, I had a few different roles, and then I had the opportunity before moving to Fossil, I worked for a company and their brand reputation was horrible, right? Their philosophy was just get it out the door. It doesn't matter if it's broken, IT, you guys can fix it. And that was not necessarily an opportunity or a company that I could stand behind. So one day we were talking and I talked about moving to another company. And one of the guys there at the going away party, he pulled out his wallet. I said, oh, that's a nice looking wallet. And he said, oh, it's a Fossil wallet. I said, well, gosh, be glory. I said, that's where I'm going. And so we all had a conversation about how nice his wallet was. And at that point, I was like, I know I'm going to the right place because of the product and the brand representation. And then I got here. So that's what drew me here. And then what kept me here is, to Jennifer's point, the people and the opportunities that I've had since I've been here. In the space that I'm in, I've had the opportunity to kind of define my own role and how I want to operate. So that gives me a little bit of autonomy, again, to kind of bring my own personality and style to it with the opportunity to grow. So I've been promoted since I've been here. I've had the opportunity to work in different areas as well. So that is what's keeping me here. I like the people. I like the work. I like the opportunity for me to define how I want to do the work and get rewarded for the result. So hopefully that answered the question in less than 3 minutes.
I could have listened to that story forever. I love that, you found a path that worked for you. I like the golden parachute analogy and just jumping out and finding somewhere else to go, and ultimately seeing the product for the company that you work for turn into the catalyst for how you got to the company. Because, I think that when we talk to students, we often tell them, think about the products that you use, whether it's your phone, the shoes you wear, the clothes you wear, the watches you wear, be mindful of that. And if it's a product that you enjoy and you know enough about the company, look into working for them. So I really, really love the story that you shared with us. Next, I'd like to go to Hallie and also ask, how did you end up at Fossil in a design role? And what's keeping you there as well?
A recruiter reached out to me about a senior design role as a watch designer for the Fossil brand. And I had never designed watches. I had been a jewelry designer since 2006, I think. And so I put together a presentation and I wowed the creative director, but he needed someone who was a little bit more senior in design skill for watches. But at that time, the Michael Kors brand, which we licensed the watches and jewelry, was looking for a senior jewelry designer. So he passed my portfolio to that team, and it just happened the timing was really perfect because their senior designer had just given notice and had left within a few weeks. So the timing worked out well, and within 2 weeks, I was here in Dallas. I had moved from Atlanta to Dallas for the position, and I've been here since 2015. So what's keeping me here is the ability to continue to design for different brands. I love that I'm getting to work with different brands. Like I said, I worked on the Michael Kors brand. I moved to the own brand side, which was on the Fossil side, and then I'm now on Scoggin. So all of them have a different design aesthetic and different customer base, which really keeps me on my toes as a design and creative. And I also really love the people that I've worked with. I've created some really great relationships here and met some really great mentors and had some amazing sponsors, which have helped me grow my career in multiple ways. And so I can't speak highly enough about how Fossil has allowed me to continue to grow in my creative space, when I know most parents would not want their children to be creatives, but I've been a working creative and successful creative for a while. And so it just helps me to live in a successful life in that creative area and space.
Thank you for sharing that. And I kind of do want to just follow up with the question, because you made a point that was interesting. I think that oftentimes we feel that our parents know what's best for us. And it sounds like you kind of were like, well, I want to walk in my own purpose and do what feels fulfilling to me. Can you talk about what that journey was like for you, and any advice that you might have for people who are kind of like, I want to do what I want to do and not feel guilty about it?
Yes, I originally, when I came out of college, I had a bachelor's in biology and I did medical research at Howard University for several years, and then worked on the institutional side for a little bit. And I really felt like I wanted to work with doing good for people. But I also realized I felt unfulfilled personally. Although I was doing good, I felt like I still had this creative itch that needed to be scratched. And so I did go back to design school. And I to be to my family's credit, I had very supportive family, so they were never worried about me. But they also knew that I was kind of a hustler and always would figure out how to live and eat and survive. But it did take a leap of faith to kind of change careers and do something that felt less intentionally focused on social good. But I will say that there have been plenty of opportunities for us to lean into social good through fashion and design. So um, you can it's not you can do both things. It doesn't have to always be a sacrifice on one end. You can fulfill all of some of those needs through doing something that's following your dreams. So um, I'm grateful to be able to help tell stories through product and lean into different communities through product and have people be seen and feel seen through designing products. So
Thank you so much for sharing that as well. And next I'll go to Trey and just, what's keeping you at Fossil and what brought you there?
So, my journey was a little not as planned, but well, technically it was because I ended up at the company that I've been applying to since I was in college. But so again, I graduated in 2020. Um, like most college students, I somewhat had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I was still a bit unsure. I knew I had a love for fashion, um, but I also had a love for marketing, and I was just like, I don't really see myself working at, like, for example, like a marketing department for like a bank, or it could be for like a investment company or whatnot. So Fossil definitely stood out to me, and I knew about Fossil since my granddad and my dad always pretty much wore Fossils, so I also grew up wearing it. Um, so I definitely applied multiple times with Fossil. Didn't get a call back the first 2 or 3 times, but um, I think it was like the fourth time I applied for a position, and I got a call back, and it was because it was someone who also went to the college that I was at. So I graduated from Texas A&M University. So we definitely bonded over that. But then unfortunately, I was told that the position that I originally applied for, they were wanting to go with more of like a retail background, someone with a little bit more experience in retail. But I also told them, because I looked on the careers page, I told them, I was just like, okay, well, there's another position that I'm definitely interested in. I think at that point I was just really eager since I had that first interview. I was just super excited of the thought of possibly working for a brand that I grew up wearing. So I definitely ran with that interview and made sure, like, okay, yes, I'm not being looked at for this position, but I definitely have an eye out for another position, which definitely helped. Um, and I'm here today. And I think what's also keeping me is the fact that I definitely work with a great team. So I am still new to the industry, but I've learned so much in a short span of time. Definitely want to give shout outs to my boss, Jessica Stark, and Kaylee Sullivan, who have definitely helped me within my marketing journey. So I definitely have great mentors as well, and definitely beyond grateful for my position.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And even the story of like, try again. I think that it's easy sometimes. And, I'm speaking more so to our community, that it's easy when you receive a no to kind of give up and say, okay, well, maybe this isn't for me. But I love your diligence, also the due diligence you did. This role is filled, but this one's open. I think I'm a good fit for this as well. I love that story. And I'd like to follow up with our next question with you. If someone doesn't have any experience or has very little experience in the fashion industry, how can they stand out as a candidate? So I think that in your story, we heard like, you know, your network playing a huge role, attending Texas A&M and making that connection. But what are some other ways that a candidate can stand out?
Yeah, so of course, when applying, I think my boss pretty much knew what she was getting herself into since I did have like an internship background. I was working within like social media, but I wasn't like too in depth into it. But I think what also made me stand out and I think could also help the next candidate is make sure you do your research. I feel like that's a big key thing. Within my role, again, we definitely look for competitive inspiration. So I actually, because like I said, I love fashion, and I definitely studied a lot of Fossil's competitive brands, and I made sure to know what was trending, what was potentially coming up, and whatnot. So I think, like I mentioned, just doing your research and showing that, like, okay, this is what I know, this is what I can bring to the table, and just definitely utilizing that. So.
As a follow-up, during your interview, did you kind of allude to that? Like, hey, I've done research, I understand, you know, this is what a great product fit will look like based off of what's happening in the industry currently. Was that something you discussed in the interview to kind of make yourself stand out as well?
Oh, definitely, for sure. I remember telling my boss, like, because I remember telling her, like, I definitely study a lot of different brands. And I remember the follow-up question being, okay, well, what type of brands and what have you studied? And I pretty much just explained my knowledge and understanding of, like, okay, for example, if we're talking about a competitive brand like I want to say let's just throw out Michael Kors. So I knew about Michael Kors, their approach with marketing, and pretty much just how they go about like their marketing channels through like their social medias, through email and whatnot. So just explaining to her like, okay, I definitely know what they're doing. I know what Fossil is doing, and I know how we can kind of like come up with some new ideas.
Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, I think that through our mock interview program at HBCU 20 by 20, we often talk about, you know, the importance of doing your research before you get into an interview. And it, you know, I love that you're a testament to that. Like I did my research, I knew what was going on in the industry. And when asked on the spot, I was able to respond. So thank you for that. Next, I'd like to go to Jennifer and just ask the same thing, you know, if someone has little to no experience in the fashion industry, how can they stand out as a candidate?
I would go back to what I kind of talked about before and really talk about or spotlight your soft skills, because honestly, at the end of the day, a lot of soft skills can be taught, but it's great if you can just already come with, you know, communication skills, listening skills, talk about, you know, how you've done time management. Um, and like Trey said, doing your research on the company also really speaks volumes. It says that you're interested in the company, that you have done research to kind of come with your own ideas and thoughts about the company based upon the knowledge that you've gained prior to interviewing with the company, and really just being your authentic self. Nobody can be you better than you can. Don't go to an interview and try to um, dictate what you think they're looking for. Just be who you are. And honestly, at the end of the day, in my opinion, that's what has gotten me the most success, just being myself.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, I think that showing up as your full authentic self certainly helps you stand out as a candidate as well, because, you know, we'll talk about it a little bit more about why diversity is important at Fossil, but just diversity of thought as well, and what you can bring to the table, the value you bring. So thank you for that. Next, I'd like to come to Roy. Roy, you attended an HBCU in Atlanta, ended up in Indianapolis at a pharmaceutical company, and are now at Fossil. Can you talk about what that transition was for you to go from being in a science or pharmaceutical based industry to eventually ending up at a fashion company?
Problem solving. So at the end of the day, even coming out of school in Atlanta and then going to a pharmaceutical company, the biggest thing, because coming into my first job, I had no pharmaceutical experience except for my internship. So I leveraged what I had from my internship in the final job interview. So I learned as much as I could in my internship about that particular company because I wanted to work there. Fast forward, coming to into the fashion industry, not having fashion experience, I did look at, well, what things have I done? What problems have I been able to solve? So my first role here at Fossil was supporting e-commerce. Well, I had done e-commerce like solutions before for a pharmaceutical manufacturer in the airline industry and in the finance industry, right? So I took those particular experiences, and when they would ask me questions more specifically related to retail, I would bridge the gap or show the similarities between what I had done before, talk about those experiences, those technologies, how I solve problems there, and lean into how that can be used in the fashion or retail industry. So I think people will give you grace if you're just honest. Hey, I don't have retail or fashion industry. You can look at my resume and see that I don't have any retail or fashion industry experience. But what I do have, I give unto thee.
Thank you so much just for sharing that as well. I think that oftentimes we forget that our skill sets are transferable and can translate into different industries. So thank you, just for sharing your story. And then last, I'll come to Hallie. I know that we spoke about it just a little bit before, going from working at an institution, particularly an HBCU, and then eventually transitioning into the fashion industry. Can you talk about what that was like for you?
It was it transferring from a scientific space to a fashion space was challenging just because of the way the two different industries worked, but there were a lot of similarities in the way you approach design and your problem solving skills as far as thinking about a problem or issue or a scientific theory that you might have. We may have a similar design that we think is going to work, but iterating on that idea and seeing how things have worked in the past and iterating to get a better idea and getting a stronger product that I've learned to incorporate from my science background. So it's similar to just like the scientific method of design and iterating on your idea. So just like everyone else has mentioned, there are transferable skills, but also I think when I was at Howard, there was so much fashion to be seen, and it might not be the same as what you see like in Vogue, but I think what is so interesting is that honestly, so many of these higher end brands and these fashion brands are inspired by like streetwear and what we see on those campuses. So bringing that energy and those ideas and those concepts to corporations and the fashion world is something that we embrace wholeheartedly. And I'm always, I haven't been on a college campus in a while, but I'm always inspired by what I see on Instagram and how younger people are really bringing fashion into this space in non-traditional ways. So I think that there is something to be said for a non-traditional candidate reaching out and showing us what you have in the design space.
Thank you for shedding light on that as well. I've been to 64 of the 101 HBCUs to date and can state, I honestly do believe that a lot of the fashion that we see is influenced, particularly from our community. I often say that Black culture runs the world. Like, like it influences everything. And, as I was listening to you, there's a documentary called The Remix. It's about hip hop and the intersections of the fashion industry. And so much can be said also about the fashion that exists on HBCU campuses. So, for the students out there, maybe you just look around, and get inspired by what you see your classmates wearing or what you're wearing or what you're doing. So I love that from each of you. What we got to hear is there's this possibility of still being able to enter the fashion industry, even if you haven't formally interned with a fashion company. So thank you for that. I think that while we're here, what I'd love to ask you next just is, in what ways do you see Fossil pushing the needle on diversity and inclusion?
I will say from the design standpoint, I know that we are taking lots of opportunities to have conversations with artists and creatives outside of Fossil Walls and so doing collaborations with them in different spaces so that we are bringing those diverse design perspectives and conversations that we might not have originally had in-house, but getting those perspectives and bringing them into our design space has been very exciting to see as a designer. I know last year we worked with a visual artist here in Dallas who has some phenomenal artwork, and he did our tins, and we did a live video with him, IG live with him, and just seeing how there's so many different creative people in the diverse space that we can lean into, that tap into in different ways, is just really exciting from the design standpoint.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And, knowing that you all also tap into local artists to also contribute is helpful. Next, I'd like to ask Trey just the same question. In which ways do you see Fossil pushing the needle? I know that in some advertisements, I felt seeing like, I see someone who looks like me. I see people with tattoos, which still are taboo in a way, but what do you see from a marketing standpoint? How is Fossil pushing the needle?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of piggyback off of what Haley had mentioned, those incredible designs, especially that we have gotten from last year. I think that it was created from, I think the artist's name was Jeremy Biggers, or I'm pretty sure that was his name. I know that my team went above and beyond to help speak to those products, making sure that we highlight that, we are celebrating Black History Month, and that pretty much just highlighting Black artists overall. So we just make sure we do our part by, again, going above and beyond to help message that, whether that's through paid social, email, through just campaigns overall.
Thank you for sharing that as well. And, I think that even with this month's Black History Month, the tin itself, is different than, a regular Fossil tin I might have. And, I think this is a great testament to the importance of infusing, wherever it can be, that diversity or visual diversity as well. So thank you all for that. Next, I'd like to come to Jennifer and just ask the same question. How do you see Fossil pushing the needle? I know that you've been at Fossil for a while now, so you've got to see a lot of the changes that have been made, but in what ways have you seen it be made?
So I would say the biggest change that I have seen over the years is the creation of the employee resource groups, which offers not only the African American community, but different communities within our organizations to have a place where they can speak with like-minded people or to go learn about other cultures and communities outside of what you know. That's one of the biggest things I think are initiatives that we have taken in the past few years, which I really love to see. Also, something that Fossil has been doing for a very long time through our foundation, which is our philanthropic arm of the company, is really focusing on underserved communities and partnering with a lot of nonprofits that serve those communities, whether that be financial or through volunteer initiatives. At Fossil, we're allowed, I believe it's 16 hours a year to take off from our day-to-day jobs and go help and volunteer in our community at any organization that we choose, which I also think is something that this company has been really, really great about. And those are some of the things that we don't always highlight, but things that are always going on behind the scenes.
Thank you so much just for sharing that. And I think, you know, right before we began, we got to hear from Sherry, who serves as the VP of Diversity and Equity at Fossil. And she immediately indicated, hey, you know, I just want to say hey to everyone, but I'm currently volunteering, you know, and, you know, I think that that's such an important component is the give back and being able to go back into the community and serve the community as well. So thank you also for sharing that. And then last, I'll come to Roy and just ask the same thing, you know, how do you see Fossil pushing the needle on diversity and inclusion?
Yep. So in that particular space, the one thing that I've seen differently since I've been here for about 5 years is leadership in that space. So you talked a little bit about our DEI leader and the work that she's been doing and her team have been doing. So since that particular time, there have been the involvement of ERG groups, employee resource groups, that allow different groups to connect, African Americans, Hispanic, mothers with children. There are quite a number of groups that are able to connect. The one thing that I'll say as well is the visibility for diverse ideas, thoughts, faces. So even when you walk around the building, when I first joined, you would see some of the plasters on the wall. And I was like, I wonder if Fossil has anyone that looks like me that's modeling the watch. And now everywhere I go, I see a very, not just, you know, African American men, but a very diverse population representing the brand. As well, some of the events that we've created here over the last few years. Again, when I first joined, there was not time and space emphasized as much as it is now, and you've definitely seen an uptick in that. I think a lot because of some of the groundswell from the community here, as well as having that champion that has a seat at the table with our CEO, right? So when you have a voice in the ear of your CEO, you can help to influence things to happen so that it's from the top and it's from the bottom, and then you can see change. So I'm excited about the opportunities that we have in front of us. Doing something like this, I didn't do this 4 or 5 years ago, right? So now we have the space and opportunity to do that. So super proud to be able to be involved in it and to give back.
Thank you so much for that. So before we kind of like head into our last question, we always like to do a giveaway. So Fossil was founded 39 years ago, and actually we'll do 2 giveaways. The first giveaway will be for $39. We'll Cash App or Venmo you. One of our panelists said that they saw something from Fossil that piqued their interest in wanting to come to the company. Email us what product it was that sparked their interest to get them to come and work at Fossil. The next question or trivia thing that we have is we'll give away one of the Black History Month watches from Fossil. So what we want you to respond and email over to info@hbcu20by20.org is, what are the names of the companies that our panelists have represented, particularly at Fossil? So there have been a few names that have been, or brands that have been thrown around. We want you to email those over to us. And if you email those over, there were 3, we'll send you a Black History Month watch from Fossil. So make sure that you get that to us. The first people to get that to us, we'll make sure that we get that over to you. But other than that, I'd like just to ask each of our panelists, if you can, just share any words of advice that you may have that will help our community, get to where you are. I think that, this panel has been really profound. We've learned a lot from each of you in the different areas and different segments that you're in. But if you can, just any last words that you may have, and whomever feels like going first. I think Roy is unmuted, so maybe we can start there.
So to keep it brief, the core competencies that you have at the institution you're in, and the degree that you are working towards is just the root foundation. That's just the basics, right? The pieces that you will add to that are your personality and your experiences, and those are unique. And those are the things that we're looking for. So continue to thrive in being you. Take all of that together, your core skill set, your technical background in doing what you love, and bringing your own personality. Bring those two together, and you'll do great things, no doubt.
Thank you so much for that. Next, because I see her on my screen to the right of me, we'll go to Jennifer.
I would say one of the most important things that has gotten me through is not only my personal life, but in my career here, is being reliable. Be reliable. If you remember nothing else from anything that I have said today, is do the things that you say that you're going to do. It really goes a long, long way, not only in your personal relationships, but in your professional relationships as well. People remember those people that they can really count on, and that is just so important. And second, I would say keep a positive attitude. You get way more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. I understand that we're all human. We all have bad days, but try to come to work or your internship or any situation with a positive attitude. That also really makes a difference, especially when people are looking for people, i.e. leadership is looking for somebody to join their team or somebody to offer a new opportunity to. They think about the people that they want to be around. And you should just think about, that in your personal life as well. Like, who are the people that I want to always be around? They're the people that are kind of, upbeat and positive. So I would just keep those two things in mind just going forward.
Thank you so much for sharing that as well. Next, I'll go to Trey and just ask the same thing. Any last words of wisdom or insight that you'd like to provide?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just being able to adapt in any situation, in any environment, definitely showcases a lot for you. Definitely, again, as Jennifer said, just having a good attitude. I know definitely for myself, like I said, I came in with little to no experience within my position, but I feel like I definitely sold myself in my interview, and I pretty much had told my boss, like, I'm pretty sure she could tell from interviewing me that, I'm a team player. I always have a great attitude, and I'm definitely going to try my hardest as much as possible. So just making sure that, you let that be known, and also leaving a very good impression means a lot. So those are my tips that I would give for the next student coming out of college.
Thank you so much. And, last but not least, we'll go over to Hallie.
I would just say college is one place to learn, but it's a lifelong experience, and just keep being willing to learn as you go, and also lift as you climb.
Thank you so much for that. So just with that being said, we'd like to thank each of our panelists just for participating in this conversation, Black at Fossil. Please be on the lookout throughout the year. We'll be hosting mock interview days with Fossil. So if you're interested in getting connected, that's a great way to plug in and build your network. Be sure to sign up for our mock interview days that come up or that we're having with Fossil. But other than that, we'd like to just, again, thank each of our panelists. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Trey. And thank you, Hallie, just for participating. Other than that, that's HBCU 20 by 20. We're signing off. Bye.